Starting.
Hi, Jackie. I'm
Hi.
I'm going to get started, and let's see if I can do it. Let's get this up. Right. Well, I'm going through quite a lot. I doubt I'll get through it all, but I can always do a part two, I suppose. I'm looking first of all at the Manchester Archive Plus photos of the 19th and 20th century inner city housing, just to show where Manchester housing was in the 19th and early 20th century. Then I'm going to go on to the photographs of Nick Hedges, who did photography for Shelter in the 1970s, I think it was. And then the photos of Shirley Baker, whom I'm sure many of you are familiar with for her Manchester and Salford photographs. I've just concentrated on her ones of, if you like, urban renewal. Then I'm going to look at Moss Side, and in particular the destruction of Alexandra Road, which I think was criminal. And then Hume, which was flattened twice. First for the terraced houses, and secondly for the deck access housing, or the crescents as they were known. Anyway, let's get started. Now, originally I was going to call it about the slum housing, but the more I think about the term slum, I think usually you use it to, that's what other people live in.
Yes. Yes.
It comes from Cockney street slang, apparently, and it sort of emerged in the late 19th century to describe the neighbourhoods that house workers, their families, and the unemployed. And I think what it does is distorts our awareness of what the internal realities of poor neighbourhoods was like, and how they differed as well as being, similar. So I haven't used that word. I've just used the word clearances, housing clearances, rather than slum clearances, because I think they're more like the Highland clearances than they were like just removing slums. Anyway, that's the point at which I took it over. So this quote from Alan Main: "I struggle to be able to identify unambiguously good and fair examples of urban policies that have consistently worked to enhance livelihoods and neighbourhood dynamics." What seems to be the problem, I think, with all this is that the planners, especially after World War II, weren't necessarily evil or whatever, but they had a view that they really knew best for what was good for people, rather than taking those people particularly into account when they went about these policies of what they thought was getting rid of the, and some were in terrible state, there's no doubt about it. Right, this is the this is actually a drawing of back-to-back houses in Manchester in the late 19th century. Has anybody ever been to a back-to-back house?
No. There were a lot of them in Leeds as well.
Yes, there were a lot of them in northern cities.
Yes.
The aim was to cram the maximum number of workers into the minimum space at the lowest possible cost. And there's a cross section of one, so you can see there are 3-story houses with cellars beneath very often.
Probably easier to build at that point.
Well, cheaper to build.
Cheaper to build, yes.
There is a place, I think it's in Birmingham, where they've actually kept and done up some back-to-back houses, so you can see them. But that's basically what they look like. And I imagine some of you were actually brought up in houses that were not necessarily back-to-back, but not necessarily that different either. No. Certainly, my grandparents in Hayward, they had an outdoor toilet, and it was quite common, really, wasn't it, in the 50s?
Oh, it was when I was little.
Yeah, that's where I used to live.
And this is an odd little thing that I came across that had been written by some sort of 19th century worker, who says, "While our workmates dream and sleep, and children," what's that, in filthy
starve? Is it starve?
Starve, yes, in filthy rooms. When reason dies and lives are cheap, and men become just tramps and bums. The bosses draw their dividends.
Yes, yes.
One which I think Derek would approve of. But
That's true.
and more recently, they did. It's not hosieing; it should be housing. That, by the way, my spelling error. They did. Remember when they were doing the tram near where the co-op is in town, and they excavated. They found these remnants of Victorian housing in Danzig Street, which is just near where the co-op buildings were. So, so that they were looking at how they were actually built. So it's in a way they've already become archaeological remains of what were.
Yes, amazing.
All they did was fill them in. They didn't get rid of them. They just filled them in. So I just thought it was interesting that they were doing that. I think
Yes, yes.
university team that looked at it. This is the Jersey building in Ancoats in 1893. And you can see the tenements there, which were a new style of building that they were doing. And in fact, later on, the later version of this became the first sort of council housing in just near where the Chinese supermarket is at the near Oldham Road, around there. They're still there. And you can see.
Is that Victoria Square?
Yes, I think it is. I think it is. And this was described as a Wesleyan service in Ardwick in 1893, but that looks like it's in front of the same building, doesn't it?
Mm.
Doesn't actually say it is, but you can see there that there are a lot of kids there, aren't they? Going into maybe because they got some food at it as well. I'm not sure about that.
They do look very poverty
And that's
stricken,
what
don't
they look like now.
Yes, wow.
They've added a lift, and I'm just going to let George in. He keeps going on at the window. Hang on. Okay. Here it comes. Yeah, George has now entered the building.
Hello, George.
Yeah, and it's owned by a housing association, and it really looks quite pleasant, doesn't it? Oh, I think
It does.
I think you can see one of the Manchester cows in the background. I hadn't noticed that before. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you remember when they were all around the city?
Yes, head on.
Yeah. This is Lower Moor in before demolition, and you can see a rather crowded house there.
Oh yes.
But then you sometimes you can't really see what the poverty is like because you haven't got the smells or any of the rest of it. But you can certainly see a lot of people.
I lived in a house like that with my uncle.
Oh, hi, Christine. Yeah.
Hi, Christine.
I lived away in rush home like that.
Yeah, they're a lot like that.
Yeah.
The bottles of medicine on the mantelpiece are very evident, aren't they?
Yeah.
Is that medicine? Yeah.
Well, that will be medicine, yes.
I remember the
Yes.
Yeah.
like where I live, just like that. God.
And this is Hume Street with a sister visiting. That's a kind of a religious order, I suppose.
Yeah.
Visiting sister. And this is another one, perhaps a better one of visiting sister in Hume Street in 1893. So you can see there aren't that many photos of that time because it was very early on in the life of photography, but it does give an impression of the sort of place that people were living in. Here's an earlier one, which is a drawing of Manchester poverty. See, a lot of these were done by reformers trying to show how they were going to help. But looking at it, with a wooden floor, it looks quite trendy now. It looks quite spacious, doesn't it? But I think it was just the bareness of it. I remember going round to a friend of mine's uncle who was in an old house. And what shocked me, coming from a reasonably off lower middle class family, was just the bareness of everything. There was nothing on the floor and hardly anything there. So it was the sheer lack of possessions that really, and maybe that was what they were trying to point out then. somewhere called Tickle Street. I don't know whether it still exists. This is Newgate Corporation Street, which is a much better photo from 1908. And again, people have come out of the houses to be photographed. Oh, is that an old dolly tub on the left where you used to do your washing?
With the potter.
Yeah, used to.
The potter.
Looks a bit like it, doesn't it? Oh, a barrel.
Yeah, or just a barrel, but it looks like a...
See, there's barrels there as well,
So you put
outside the house.
Yeah.
as well.
I don't know what Newgate means, but
Mm.
I do remember my mum used to threaten us if we didn't behave, you'll end up in Newgate.
It's a prison.
And I don't know
Prison.
what that means.
It was a prison, wasn't it? Yeah, it wasn't a prison in
Was that a
Manchester.
prison as well? Oh.
I don't know, I
Right.
can't remember that. But
Yeah,
Sort of was a
it was a London.
it was, oh, hello, Derek. Yeah, it was a
It
London
was a
one.
London.
So yes, it was where they used to have hangings and all sorts, isn't it?
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
Gosh.
That's it,
You-
Newgate
you-
Prison, yes.
Doreen, you would have been publicly hanged there. That's,
Oh,
that's
She
what
must
it
have
was
meant-
famous
she must
for.
have meant this street. She must have meant the street.
You must have been an awful child.
I mean,
Absolutely. Oh dear.
these are from 1963, and the beginning of the
Yeah.
clearances in Ardwick.
Yeah.
But you can see they just wanted to gut the whole lot. When they were doing slum clearances, they started off by having individual agreements with people, but because so many people objected, they just got area clearance orders so that they could clear the whole lot and pay them about 12 quid for their house.
God.
You know, which
Not a
is,
lot.
it wasn't a lot even then, really, for that.
Two.
I lived in Ardwick,
Yeah.
and our houses were a bit better than this. They had 4 steps, but I lived against, you see the bridge,
Yeah.
railway bridge.
Yeah.
Our house was in very close proximity to that, which would suggest that ours was built after these. What I'm trying to get at, I lived near that railway bridge
Yeah.
in
That's
Ardwick.
right. Yeah.
Oh,
I think Tony did as well, didn't he? Was he brought up in Ardwick and Ancoats?
Yeah, he was from Ardwick, wasn't he? Yeah.
Well, this is
Yes,
Ancoats as it was being cleared, Bradford Road in 1961. And as you can see, they just go for a blank. The builders wanted it like that, so they could just go in with the. In fact, the thing that held it up was, interestingly, the lack of materials and available labour to do things, which is a bit like it is at the moment, isn't it?
yes. Yes.
But the old mill's still there, and a lot of the mills, fortunately, haven't been pulled down and are now very, very trendy places. Ancoats is one of the trendiest places in the country, according to various magazines. This is Collihurst, and you can see the CIS building in the background.
yeah.
I didn't realise it was done so early, that one, the CIS building.
Strange name. but it's good.
And also, it says a gasometer. Where's the gasometer? I can't see it.
In the back there.
Anyway, I can't see it. Maybe we've got
Isn't it
Made a
that?
pic-
Is it
made
that
a picture a bit
structure?
bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it that?
It's
Isn't it
the
empty? And it's
skeletal
that structure.
The skeletal
Yeah.
structure on the far right.
Yes, I think so.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
down. It's
Yeah.
half empty, so it's gone Yeah. down.
Yes,
hasn't
you're right.
it?
You're right. You're right. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to try to move your pictures down to the bottom so I can see all this. Yeah. Okay, the next one. Darncombe Street in Moss Side.
Moss Side, I know it well.
A very typical scene at the time with old chairs.
It's not me then.
I mean, in some ways, the children in these photos always look very cheerful. Maybe kids always just look very cheerful, but I suppose especially when there was a camera. But they also could have quite a good time. First of all, in the bombed out areas after the war, and secondly, in the clearance areas, because there's also things to find there.
Used to play all sorts of things around the bomb site.
It's interesting that when, I don't know whether you can see this on mine, can you see that tile there?
What's
Yeah.
lovely.
Yes,
Really
lovely.
beautiful. Anita, my wife, got that when they were pulling down some houses just on the border of Whalley Range and Moss Side. And
All right.
went around and found a whole pile of tiles like that. It just shows you, you know, there was some real quality stuff there still. But she managed to keep this one.
Around Whalley Ray, I'd been an Atkin area. I'd been.
Yeah, it had been, yeah.
Yeah.
This is just one I'm showing from Shirley Baker. Of
Oh God, I remember that. Oh gosh.
yeah, I think we probably, most of us remember that. The
You
rag-
put me stone, be your stack to clean your stack.
Yeah. And what was it? What do they call those? A pumice stone or something?
Put me stone, yeah. Yeah.
No, there's another name for them. I forgot what they're called. Anyway,
Used to get a slap if you went on the step. My mother used to go back, "Get off that step."
You used to have to reddle them. Reddling.
is that what it is? Right. Well,
Used to do all that. I used to help my mum do that.
But I suppose they were the original recyclers, weren't they? Really, they're about rag and bone men.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know.
Going
What they call, I don't know why. I can understand the rags, but not so much the bones. I don't know what the bones were. They were supposed to be.
Don't know
Picking. Wouldn't be used. I suppose you could recycle them, and there you go. This was the Harper Hay clearance area near the Manchester General Cemetery, Rochdale Road, 1959. And if any of you are from that sort of area, and you can see the clearance absolutely just leaves things like the lampposts, and that's it. There's another one of the same area. You can see the roofs have already started coming off there. I'm going to get onto those next.
It's sad in a way, though, isn't it?
Well, I think it was terribly sad. I really feel that a lot of what they did was not good at all. Just, I feel that my personal view is that those areas that have just been totally wiped out and then built on, they never have the same feeling of being a community place. I think somewhere like Salford Quays. I know they've got all these new buildings, but to me, it feels like a sterile area.
Yes.
You know, when you don't keep any of your history there, when there's no continuity, it just isn't the same as well. And at that time, they were trying to knock down places like the small houses in Didsbury and the ones in Chorlton, but they managed to object to that. They wanted to knock down anything that was small and could easily be replaced and new flats built on them.
No local people from Salford could afford to live at the Quays, Bernard.
No, I know, and that was one of the arguments.
I mean, it's all people who've come from outside.
Yeah. Same in Hume. Yeah, it is. It's it was the same at the time. There was a lot of complaining that they couldn't afford. One of the reasons was that the city council had to get back the cost of the clearances by increasing the rents on the new flats that they were in, and they were originally given choices, and then they weren't because they found people were just not accepting where they didn't want to go to Wythenshawe or wherever.
No, of course not. It was not their area, was it?
No.
What
Yeah.
What happened to the inner city people in Salford? They're all out here in Little Hulton, right?
Yeah.
So the streets are actually called Odsall.
Yeah.
Langworthy. You know, so around me, there are those streets. So people have the sense of belonging to the original areas, but you know, they couldn't live there, you know, at the time that they were moved. You know, so Little Hulton here, which is Salford's equivalent to Wythenshawe. You know, Wythenshawe's massive estate.
Yeah.
For Manchester, Little Hulton isn't as big as Wythenshawe, but it's big in the scale for Salford.
Yeah. Doreen, you want to say something?
Yeah, when I come in to town on the metro, I see little church steeples in between all these glass buildings. They never knocked churches down, did they? So, I remember, how long did it take for the community to come back to the church?
Yeah, they never did very often. But I remember one of my first lectures I had when I was a sociology student at Manchester University in 1965 was a lecturer who referred to the demolition that was going on in Moss Side and Hume. And he said the two things that are left are the two opium of the masses, churches and pubs,
Yeah.
Yes.
which always stuck with me as a comment. I thought was
An interesting comment.
Whoops. Right, so that's that one. I'm now moving on to Nick Hedges' photographs for shelter. He took Shelter employed this photographer to go around to travel around documenting the lives of family living in substandard housing, and these are the sort of things he won. I'm just showing some of the ones he took of Manchester in these 1970s. That's the child at the end of an alleyway.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah. Alleyways, there was a big difference, wasn't it, between alleyways that were kept clean and ones that weren't.
I feel
Yes.
like that usually no traffic, they were always like that.
So I'm just getting rid of George again. There you go.
My house is probably there.
This is children in their bedroom in
Gosh.
Mossway.
He's changed there. He's changed.
Yeah, I think you can see it more clearly, the kind of overcrowding that there was really in photos like this. But again, he was going round a bit looking for, in some places, well, no, misery is not the right word, but you know what I mean. He was looking for something that illustrated Shelter's point. This is a bedroom ceiling in Moss Side. And again, I think anybody who's lived in substandard houses with lousy landlords knows not something as bad as this, but the mold and the damp and the other things that you can never get it dry.
To live like that, oh God.
Terrible.
Here's children playing in one of the alleys in 1971.
I'm not there, am I?
Children's bedroom in 1971 too.
Oh,
Look at that,
God.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
We always in the bed, didn't they?
Yeah.
But you were like that, Susie, we all three. All in bed.
Yes, look at that.
71, that's unbelievable.
I
isn't
know,
it?
I know. And 69. I like this one. Clothes drying in the garden.
Put them anywhere. You didn't have to
Yeah.
Look,
Maybe
they look like rags.
they couldn't get a line, obviously. Yeah.
you to put them over a dustbin sometimes.
The multi-lets, as they call them now, are HMOs, aren't they? Houses of multiple occupation. Elderly couple in semi-derelict property.
That Ina Sharp.
That's just what I was going to say.
She very much does, doesn't it? She's got a hairnet on. Yeah, it gets a hairnet.
Mm.
I like his belt as well. It's very much of the time.
Yeah,
That.
the unfold big belt.
Yes, very much.
I think it's a fabulous photo. That one.
Belt here. I get the belt.
It's belts and braces, isn't it?
Yes, your belt and blade. Yeah, make sure.
Gosh, look at that.
Again, in the
That's
season 1960.
Yeah. Well, say nothing's changed. It's still going on.
Oh yeah. We're not saying everything's improved. It certainly hasn't. Housewife in the backyard of a Manchester terrace
Yes,
house.
that'd be my mother. Oh, that's my mother. She used
Has
to
it-
like, that's what she used to dress like. Yeah.
Has she got her curlers in? Do you think? Has she got
Used to have a
Oh,
curly-
yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
she
she
have curlers underneath the scarf.
was going out every night. She had to have a curlers. Oh, God.
Yes, you can see them if you make the picture bigger.
That's the coal shed she's next to.
Oh yeah.
The bike in the back, yeah. Remember.
This one of Irish immigrants recently moved. I think he's got a terrific face, actually. I think he looks really good.
Yes,
Wonder if
nice
I,
looking man.
but I probably know them now. I might know.
He's got photographs of a pin-up on the back on the wall.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, look at that.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the children are really kind of posing or looking for the camera, aren't they? And I don't know
Yeah,
whether,
she-
I don't know
Right,
whether they
look.
told them to look miserable or what, but it's a
It's really good.
mother and daughters living in substandard property. Manchester, 1969.
That's my mother with a fag in her hand. That's definitely my mother.
It's another great photo, isn't it?
Never had a fag out of her hand.
And this one again, a kitchen not in too great a state.
Oh, yeah.
Now this one's interesting.
I remember that.
Oh, yes.
When I was 16, I through a guy who lived across the road from us, I got a job. He provided temporary workers. So over the holidays, I worked for the refuge, and I thought it was the refuge assurance company, but it was actually the refuge lending company.
Yes.
Oh,
That's on track. It's a
So-
226 phone number.
So it was really quite an experience. That I feel rather ashamed of myself. I should have walked out of it really, but you don't. When you're young, you don't. You kind of just get on with it. But
That'd be
I used to get my Whitweek clothes with a refuge loan. We
yeah.
only got new clothes once a year, and we got a
Yeah.
refuge loan for the
when they got
Whitweek
new
clothes.
clothes. Always second hand.
I don't know if they're still going. I doubt that they are, but it was going strong then, certainly.
Now I think they're still going.
Oh wow! Playing on waste ground. That's fairly typical. It looks like they're about to have a game of cricket. Or
Yeah. Yeah.
that
these-
looks very familiar to me. I must have seen somewhere like that.
they are, aren't they? They're very, very. Unfortunately, he didn't name exactly where in Manchester they were, so you just have to get, kind of.
Probably Hume way, I would think.
It looks possibly like Moss Side, those 3-story ones.
Side Hume, yeah.
I like this one. Single man living in one room and multi-let house, Moss Side. He looks quite uncomfortable there, doesn't he? Really?
It does.
His hair.
His hair's
Yeah.
terrific, isn't it? Yeah. What a coiffure he had there.
Yeah.
But with the milk
Very
bottles,
tidy, isn't it?
I noticed they had Sterry milk.
Yeah,
Mm.
Stera. We always had Stera. He didn't have fresh milk.
This is another one of wrecked cars are often great things to play on. Again, I think it was probably Moss Side or something.
That looks like Moss Side. That.
And that's the last one of those.
Big houses. There used to be affluent, those big houses.
And then finally for today, I think I haven't got time for the Moss Side and Hume ones. I'll do them next time, I think, because we're running out of time. But these are the Shirley Baker photos. Now, I have shown some of these before. Do you know who Shirley Baker was? Has anybody heard of her?
Yeah, I've heard of her.
She was she decided she wanted to take photos of something else that most other people seem to be ignoring, which was the sort of bombed out areas of Salford and Manchester in the 60s and 70s and 80s. And she just went around taking loads and loads and loads of photos. And it was only later on when people realized what a record she kept of them that she became well known for it. And this one is fairly familiar, isn't it? It's in Plymouth Grove. I think it's just near the corner, near the university. I'm not sure. I think that used to be a pub.
Yeah, it looks like
It's still there, actually. It's
Still there, isn't it?
It's been renovated and it's a Chinese restaurant now.
All right.
It's almost opposite Mrs. Gaskell's house.
That's right. It is, isn't it? On the
Yeah.
corner. Well, that's a photograph. Rare photograph.
But it's been thoroughly restored and
Yeah, it looks good, doesn't
it
it?
looks like it's falling down there, but it's obviously been saved. So
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
that's good.
that's some good news.
yeah.
Yes.
And here's another one of hers that she's taking again on a sort of a slum clearance, or could it be post World War II damage? I think probably more likely slum clearance.
yeah. So,
And they're next to was that an old restaurant that was knocked down?
look at him reading his paper.
This I think is a very iconic image she took.
Mm.
And I've seen something written by one of the children there who was photographed in there, and about how this is in the, there they were, a family, and the new flats were coming up, the old bombed out area. There's something very, very, I'm not sure whether that's Salford or Manchester actually. But
It's like Hume.
it could
But
be,
they had
could be.
Hume.
I don't know what that big building on the left is though.
Be Salford, actually.
Itself.
Yeah, I think it probably is. She did an awful lot of Salford. She was very good on that. Here's another one in front of her.
Yeah, that looks right. Yeah, I like it. Look at the windows.
Yeah, and those pram wheels, they were treasured because
Yes.
you could make bogies out of those.
You always knock me over with them.
I remember I made mine out of one just like that, and I couldn't get those two, you know, those springs at the front, the curling round. So I decided to keep them as a feature of it and called it Wild Bull of the Pampas. There you go, my particular one.
But the children, don't you look great? Cheeky chappers.
Here's another one of that. Again, often burning stuff on the, to get it. And another man, I don't know what he's doing with that particular pram, probably just moving stuff around. And people, as you can see, use hand carts. I think you were saying, Graham, that was it your grandfather came over from Yorkshire?
My great-grandfather
Your
pushed all his possessions over the Pennines in a handcart.
Yeah, which is astonishing, isn't it? It's astonishing when you think about it. The distances people actually walked in those days was astonishing. Either there wasn't much public transport or they couldn't afford it.
Do you know when this was taken?
This one, no, I haven't got the details.
Because like there's several hand carts in view, apart from the pram, and he's pushing the hand cart, and there's
there's
waiting. I suppose it's
maybe
just scrap men taking what they could find, aren't they?
it looks like it, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Scavenging.
Or to sell.
Probably shortly after the demolition, when there's a lot of stuff around. Yeah.
They're selling so they could afford.
It's a great photo.
I love that photo. That's
lovely.
a lovely photo. Oh, it's marvellous.
You can't keep them down, can you? They're all.
No.
And they look really
wonderful.
cheerful and together as a group. What's that little boy on the right holding? Something like,
It looks like a gun.
It's a gun, isn't it?
I think it is. Probably a kick gun.
Yeah, used to like cowboys and Indians. Yeah.
And the way their socks, some of them are pulled up and some aren't. You know, never.
That one with the gun.
Yeah, I think that's a lovely one. You can see the wallpaper.
The colour seems
It's a wonderful photo, marvellous photo.
Yeah, I don't know whether because she did start taking colour photographs, but this in some ways looks like a coloured photograph, doesn't it, rather than a colour?
Yeah,
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Like one of those yesterday.
Yeah, like one of those. Yeah.
Marvellous.
The lads seen that. Oh, that's good.
This is a really good one, I think. I think it's really yeah. Kids drinking their milk, and one of them's got a handbag, the other one's got a bucket, and again they're looking
happy.
They're looking really, really strong and proud, and I think it's a terrific photo. That is in no way
marvellous.
negative, is it? Yeah. Oh, it's a bucket and broom. Mop. Yeah.
Mop. Yeah.
They used to borrow that, a feature there.
Yeah.
Have you got the mop bucket?
They're up.
Yeah. There are a couple walking across the desolation of some of the clearances. This is another good one. Again, I can't make out. It could be Moss Side. Could that St Mary's Church in the background? No, I'm not sure. I don't think it is. No.
Is that the church near just off Moss Lane?
I was thinking that, but I'm not sure it is. It just doesn't look like that area. But the with the big high rise.
Yeah, because this would all be Loretto here, wouldn't it?
Yeah. If it was, yeah. And again, burning stuff on the wreck was a major activity. Another good one.
That one of my grand's old house. He had a house like that.
Yeah, but some of these were solid old houses that they were knocking down.
Yes, terrible.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, my granddad.
And again, it's a very kind of artistic photograph, this one, isn't it?
It is. I think she is wonderful the way she's placed people, because it can't always have been there.
If they're inside the house, it doesn't exactly look like a safe place to be, does it?
It doesn't. It doesn't. No, not at all.
Another great one. The EX, I think, stands for it. What do you think that stands for? It means X house or something that's about to be pulled down. I saw it on a previous slide as well. And again, the young child asleep in the pram. Can you close the door?
The pram doesn't look safe.
No, this is quite an original bike, isn't it? They've turned what looks like a butcher's boy's bike into a means of transport. People with
That's a nice screen van.
oh, was that what it was? That was probably
Yes, that was a nice screen van.
But surely, I mean,
A great big tub.
it's got
Kiddies
metal wheels on it for some reason. Again, you can see that X on the side of the house as well. So,
Yeah.
and there they are, still with a broom,